It is the middle of the night, and I am proceeding with part two. And I have to tell you that I'm struggling with this a little bit. Um, I had said before in part one, in the beginning, that this was going to be very difficult for me, and it is to have to kind of relive what happened. Um, yes, I remember opening my eyes. I remember seeing my best friend. I remember seeing his family. And I remember feeling relieved. And I remember speaking to my mother and first apologizing about this. I don't know why. I just said, I'm sorry. And my mother said, don't apologize. Don't you dare apologize. And she was saying that she was going to be there for me and that she loved me. I have to tell you that those first few moments, having that, there was something down my throat helping me breathe. I guess they had something, I don't know what the medical term for it is, but it was helping me to breathe, and I hated it. I hated having that thing in my mouth, but they didn't take it out at first. I just wanted water. I was so thirsty. My throat felt like it was burning. I wanted water, and I was trying to figure out if this was, maybe it was some kind of a nightmare or something that was happening, but it was real. It was really happening, and um, I was just kind of at a loss. I mean, eventually they took that thing out of my throat, and I tell you, interestingly enough, there was one person in the ICU that I do remember, a nurse that was with me, and I'll never forget him. He treated me so well. There are moments that people come in and out of our lives, like that person that was there when I first had my accident and stopped to help me. And then there was this nurse who took such great care of me while I was there. A nurse that I'll never forget, and that um, in a moment when I feel up to it, I will go to the hospital and thank him if he still works there for what he did, because I appreciate it. I truly do appreciate it. My introduction into the medical system in the United States. I have always pictured doctors as being perfect because of their education and all these other things. I had this vision of them never making mistakes and knowing basically everything, and that's just not the case. Boy, was I naive. No. Doctors have flaws, and there are good doctors and there are bad doctors, and just like anything else. And I learned that lesson. It was a pretty harsh lesson to learn at that moment for me. You know, I had to take off the rose-colored glasses and realize that. Though I have to tell you that my surgeon was wonderful. He put my leg back together again. Though after they had done it, it was never the same, of course. In the beginning, I could barely walk. Of course, I had to be assisted when I was walking, but I remember the first time I got up. I have to tell you, to begin with, before this accident, I was literally 5 days a week walking 2 miles, going to the gym, running a mile and a half, and then working out for 2 hours, pretty much 5 days a week. And I remember being in the hospital and trying to get up for the first time, and how difficult it was because I'd been in bed for so long. I felt like the earth itself perhaps was on my chest as I was lifting myself out of bed. I actually needed help to get out of bed. I looked at myself and I realized that I was really, really skinny, thin, only after a day or two of just not doing anything. I thought, where did all the muscle go? My gosh, what's happening to me? One of the things about a hospital or any kind of medical facility for me is the loss of control over myself and doing the things I would normally do. There are so many things that we take for granted every day. One of those things is going to the bathroom, being able to go do our business, take care of it, and leave. And of course, when you can't move, you can't go to the restroom by yourself. There is a dignity that you lose when you're in that kind of situation. Now, there are people that had it much worse than me. There are people that are paralyzed and can't do anything, and I completely understand that. This is just my situation, and I honestly, I can't imagine how they get through every day. Having someone take you to the bathroom and perform the private, intimate functions that you have done for most of your life. It is at times humiliating, and I don't know how many people actually talk about this kind of thing, but I wanted to because it had a huge impact on me. I tell you, sometimes you are in pitch dark. You are walking through the darkness. You're walking through the darkest tunnel, and the light that begins to lead you out of that tunnel, the light on the other end is not truly a light that you see on the other end. The light is inside of you. That is the light that guides you towards leaving that darkness that surrounds you. And I truly believe that. There were times when my leg hurt so bad, I realized during my time in the hospital and in recovery for the first time that there were things that were worse than death, that there was pain that hurt so bad that it feels like you'd rather die than continue to feel that pain. And of course, again, it's not just physical, it's mental too. It's emotional. I don't know what I would have done without my mother. She read to me during this period. She would read poetry and she would read books to me. In fact, she's always read to me. I mean, even when I was small, she'd read to me. She'd read these books, and I believe it was a way that I connected with her when I was small. And now, even as an adult, her reading to me in this moment that I was so vulnerable. Now, some of you may be thinking or wondering, asking to yourselves, did I use astral projection to escape at times? And I want to tell you that they were pumping me with some extremely powerful pain meds. And I'm not sure with the others that are able to astral project, those of you who are able to do it, but for me, it literally, if I take a sip of alcohol or any kind of drug of any sort, the whole astral projection thing goes away from me. I am unable to leave my body or do anything else. I simply sleep and then I wake up. And that's what the drugs did. So during this time, I wasn't able to leave my body. And this kind of brings me to kind of the last thing I want to talk about with this, or the last part of this, which was my experience at the rehab center. I don't want to get too deeply into this because it is very, very painful for me. But there are some things that I want to get off of my chest. I want to put it out there. This rehab center that I was in was not only for rehabilitation if you had some sort of catastrophic injury, it was also for older people who were unable to take care of themselves. And I remember going into this room, and I was, of course, wheeled in. I was carried in on this thing or whatever, and I was transferred onto the bed. And one of the things I remember about it was how stuffy and hot it was in there. It didn't seem to have air conditioning. And there was a clock. I remember there was a clock up on the wall. Straight ahead, I could see it. I remember as they were setting me down. And I remember my friends were with me, and once they had said goodbye, one of the things that I've always felt guilty about is that I felt that they were abandoning me at that moment. I was thinking, where are you going? Please don't leave me. Because this place didn't seem to be a very nice place to me. You know, you go through experiences sometimes, and it shows you things. It teaches you things. And for me, this taught me that if it is within my power, financially and otherwise, to make sure that a loved one never has to go into a place like that when they get older and when they're unable to take care of themselves, I will do everything in my power to make sure that that never happens to them. Perhaps there are places out there that are wonderful for those folks that are older and that are not able to do the things they used to do. Perhaps there are great places for them, but this place was not one of them, at least from my point of view. I remember at night, it was very difficult to sleep, and many times I needed to have some sort of pain med to take away the pain in my leg. But I remember closing my eyes, and before I would go to sleep, sometimes I would hear the cries of people down the way. I was told once, I believe by one of the nurses, that those cries were coming from people that wanted their pain medication, that they were crying for it. And I don't blame them. In a place like that, all you want to do is numb yourself from the pain. So, yeah, I don't blame them. In our next episode, and the last in this series, I will talk about coming home and the beginning of the visions and of the beyond body stuff and taking my first steps. So, thank you so much for coming on another journey with me. And until next time, Take care.